I'm more than willing to admit I'm starting to run out of ideas when it comes to talking about the sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. This may be an extremely well-made teaser with lots of hidden details and hints of things to come, but this trailer is only 1 minute and 27 seconds long, and I've already talked about it on the channel for just short of 4 hours. So today I wanted to try something a little different. I like to think I'm a pretty creative person. I like to let my mind wander and just think of ideas sometimes. And let me tell you, in those moments, I have come up with no shortage of original ideas for this game. So I thought it might be fun to share those ideas in a sort of concept pitch on what Breath of the Wild sequel could look like. Now granted, creating a concept pitch for a video game despite popular opinion is not the easiest thing in the world, but here we are. I have a head full of random ideas for this game, and I have tried to put them into a comprehensive form to present to you here today. This is what we got. Also, to help me bring this vision to life, the amazing Ganondoodles has lent a hand in making original concept art you will see throughout this video. And NintendoBlackCrisis has also graciously joined me to suggest ideas and help narrate. With all that exposition out of the way, I hope you guys enjoy our presentation.
Open your eyes. Open your eyes. Wake up, Link.
So, as we fade into Hyrule Castle, Link and Zelda prepare for an expedition. A mysterious door hidden below the castle has been discovered, and beyond that door, something is calling for them. Strangely, they can both feel it. A subconscious call. Zelda is able to break the mysterious seal put on this door, and together they journey into the cavern found on the opposite side, searching for the one calling out to them. After a much longer than expected journey down to the depths of Hyrule, they find the bottom of the tunnel, and another door with the same mysterious seal. Zelda opens it, simultaneously opening a door on the other side of the chamber, and in this chamber, they find a corpse. This was what was calling out for help. With the sealed doors unlocked, the subconscious voice now tricks the heroes into freeing it of a seal placed by the spectral hand that now latches onto Link. The corpse is then able to reanimate and attacks Link and Zelda. The battle ends with this corpse getting the jump on Zelda and locking away her power to use the Triforce, and next disarming the Master Sword from a one-handed and weakened Link, dazed by the spectral hand bonding to him. The corpse knocks the heroes back, sending them falling down a great sinkhole on the other side of the chamber. This corpse is the man behind Calamity Ganon, Ganondorf, finally free after thousands of years of imprisonment. His awakening activates a long-forgotten failsafe, sending many of Hyrule's most important locations into the sky. Ganondorf ascends to the surface of Hyrule once more, on a floating castle above the land. Zelda and Link awaken in a cave after falling through the sinkhole and losing the corpse. They emerge out of the cave to find this view. Welcome to the Lost Kingdom.
Breath of the Wild owes a lot of its success to how amazing it was to explore its world. You never knew what you would find in a Hyrule so vast, interactive, and new. So much so that exploring it and uncovering its secrets is in the name of the game. The world of Hyrule is the soul of Breath of the Wild, and reusing that same world makes this a very hard sequel to sell because that fundamentally wipes the main appeal of the original game. This means that to succeed, Breath of the Wild sequel can't just copy the first game. It needs to find new ways of engaging players. In general, this is going to be a hard game to pull off just based on the fact that it's tackling so much new territory. This is one of the few games in the Zelda series to be a direct sequel. It's the first 3D game in the series seeming to be reusing the same world as another Zelda game, and it's the follow-up to the game that totally changed the trajectory of the series. It's imperative that no matter how many new ideas the sequel may bring to the table, it offers the player some sort of new terrain to explore, because that's at the very heart of Zelda's new identity. This is why the Hyrule we know and love from Breath of the Wild will return with quite a few large alterations. But the star of the show isn't Hyrule, it's the hidden kingdom below it.
let me introduce you to a whole new world hidden right underneath our noses. This is Primordium, a new addition to Breath of the Wild's overworld spanning about 50% the size of the original game's Hyrule. As a kingdom long forgotten and completely cut off from the world above, it is up to Link and Zelda to find their way through this strange world and figure out a way to return to the surface. Like Breath of the Wild, this sequel relies on the player to carve their own path through the world. However, compared to Breath of the Wild, there is a bit more structure to your journey, and more of a focus on the story. Escaping Primordium could be defined as the first act of the game. You do this by exploring the world, learning how this hidden kingdom came to be, and how to return to the surface. As players explore this new land, they'll encounter new people, types of terrain, challenges, enemies, locations, and objectives. Alongside that, a big focus of this game is, of course, new gameplay mechanics, with the two most important being the Spectral Hand and Zelda. The Spectral Hand is a mysterious new ability Link gained when Ganondorf was awakened, and the hand for some reason bonded to him. Much like the Sheikah Slate and its runes in the original game, the Spectral Hand acts as a way for Link to access special abilities. This includes a shape-shifting feature allowing Link to convert his hands into a variety of tools, similar to past Zelda items like the hookshot or beetle, and later on in the game use advanced techniques that take advantage of the Spectral Hand's ability to manipulate life force, absorbing enemies' powers. Next is Zelda. In this game, Zelda participates in the adventure not just as a guide, but also as a fully functional playable character that can be switched out on the fly. Zelda and Link are used throughout the game for different unique playstyles and actions. While Link has gained the Spectral Hand, the rune actions seen in the original Breath of the Wild are now accessed through Zelda. Alongside this, Zelda's combat style focuses on a more long-ranged approach, and prefers not to confront enemies head-on.
This brings us to enemy encounters. No more will Bokoblins, Moblins, and Lizalfos be Link and Zelda's main threat, but instead, new takes on the Gorayas, Dairas, and Tektites would be the new underground enemy trio. As well as this, you'll find new overworld bosses roaming the land, such as massive Dodongos that provide a Lionel-level threat in battle, and mechanical guardian-like monsters lurking in the water. This world is dense and much more multi-layered than Breath of the Wild's overworld, but it still contains the same goal of always having something interesting not that far out of reach. Part of what made Breath of the Wild so great was how packed with content the world was. In this game, 60 new shrine-like structures will appear above, below, and in the original map of Hyrule, as well as more engaging side quests with better rewards, a replacement for Korok seeds underground, such as Speltulas, and 9 main dungeons. The sequel will also see a lot of the systems introduced in Breath of the Wild reworked and expanded upon. Red Dead Redemption 2 is brought up to mind as it's apparently working as a source of inspiration for the team. In Red Dead Redemption 2, there are specific events that occur at specific locations and times in the world. It's one of the more interesting features of the game that really gives the world a sense of life. Breath of the Wild implemented a similar idea with certain areas where travelers could be found, engaging in a fight with Bokoblins. The sequel will try to expand upon these ideas heavily, with even more substantial and varying random encounters popping up as you explore the world. Another thing Breath of the Wild introduced was a semi-crafting system in which the many materials found on your journey could be used for elixirs and food and upgraded armor. While this system was a welcome addition, it felt lacking in bare bones in many ways. Again, this will change in the sequel with much more customization found from things as simple as combining an arrow and elemental choo-choo jelly, or crafting all new strengthened weapons from valuable ore. This will also help players with Breath of the Wild's breakable weapon system, which will return.
The world has a much more fantastical feel to it compared to the luscious green fields of Hyrule. As opposed to natural light, luminous stones light up much of the scenery, with lakes and rivers of flowing luminous water running through the land. Along with this, you'll find some areas like a beautiful Red Tree mountain range, a desolate plain, areas isolated by giant cave overhangings, a grand palace, a forgotten temple, and so much more. When Ganondorf was awakened, he triggered a failsafe designed to be used as a last resort if his seal ever broke. It sprung areas into the sky using the power of Sheikah and Zonai ingenuity. This left openings to the outside world from locations that had been sent skyward. However, there is still no way to return to the surface from the lost kingdom of Primordium. Well, almost no way. According to a wise sage the heroes meet outside the cave they awaken in, there is one hope for them to return to the surface. Legend says that if someone worthy visits the 3 towers scattered across Primordium, they will gain the power of flight. Many souls have tried in an attempt to escape the underground, but none have succeeded. So the objective is set: climb the 3 towers and prove yourself worthy of the power of flight. Like the divine beasts in Breath of the Wild, these dungeons can be completed in any order. However, unlike Breath of the Wild, these are longer and more traditional in their structure. The towers each portray individual themes as well. The Tower of Courage, dedicated to the dragons, reincarnations of the golden goddesses, the Tower of Wisdom, dedicated to the goddess Hylia, and the Tower of Power, dedicated to the demon lord whose name was lost to time. You may have noticed a familiar motif for the design of each of these towers, a design highlighted in the teaser trailer for Breath of the Wild sequel, Zonai architecture. That's because the mysterious tribe hinted at in Breath of the Wild that vanished long ago didn't die off. It was isolated on the other side of Ganondorf's prison. Over thousands of years, the Zonai developed their own civilization underground, with different cultures and factions emerging. Today, these factions are identified by which figure of the Triforce they worship: dragons, goddess, or demon lord.
These factions respond to the arrival of outsiders and the revelations of the openings to the world above differently. Remember that these people have been living underground for thousands of years. Not one of them has lived long enough to have seen the surface's world before. All they had to go off of, before a few giant holes to the world above opened, was word of mouth and legends. Of the 3 underground factions, only one is openly hostile towards the heroes: the Demon Lord faction. Members of this faction are part of a borderline cult that believe only the Demon Lord has the power to return the Zonai to the surface. This belief is driven home even further when his reincarnation is responsible for revealing the hidden world to the surface once again. The other 2 factions take a more neutral to helpful role in Link and Zelda's adventure to the surface. After being driven off from the Zonai Palace by the more powerful Demon Tribe, the Wisdom Tribe can be helped through a series of side quests, culminating in retaking the palace. They are, for the most part, indifferent to Link and Zelda, most having forgotten the connection Zelda shares with the goddess over the years.
The Courage Tribe, on the other hand, lives remotely hidden away on a mountain near the Tower of Courage. They live as peaceful monks, following in the footsteps of their hero. Upon Link and Zelda's arrival, they are left in shock by Link's spectral hand. They explain that the hand that Link and Zelda found on the corpse was the remains of their ancestor, the hero that defeated Ganondorf. Their legends tell them the tale of how Ganondorf came to be sealed away. It had been observed through the records of time that in Hyrule, a form of great evil always emerges not long after one is defeated. Through immense research and debate among the kingdom's most brilliant scholars, they concluded that this was no unrelated reoccurrence, but a pattern of reincarnation. They then devised a plan to overcome this cycle of destruction by not allowing the last heir to the cycle to die. A special technique was created to keep the prisoner at bay, a technique that could only be carried out by the hero with a spectral hand. However, one thing they didn't expect was as the hero sealed the evil one, he retaliated with a pure evil substance known as malice. The prison room was flooded with it, taking control of anyone it touched, and in a panic, the princess sealed the doors, cutting off not just Ganondorf and the hero from the world above, but also the civilization that designed this imprisonment plan, trapped on the other side of this tunnel, the Zonai. The Courage Tribe reaffirmed to Link and Zelda that Ganondorf must be stopped, and offer Link guidance in learning to master his new spectral hand ability. So, after exploring the world and proving your worth by defeating the unique bosses of each tower, it's time you claim the ability to fly and return to the surface of Hyrule. However, this legend of flight wasn't referring to the power you obtain, but an ancient companion long extinct, and a ritual the spectral hand could use to bring it back to life. This was the great flying companion of the first Hylians, the Loftwing. This resurrected Loftwing is Link and Zelda's new companion, and their ticket back to the surface. Now begins Act 2. Taking to the back of the Loftwing, they soar to the skies above. But upon seeing the state of the surface world, any triumph felt by returning is quickly gone. The scene of an apocalyptic world lies before them, covered in malice emanating from Hyrule Castle. Breath of the Wild may have been a post-apocalyptic world, but this Hyrule field actually feels apocalyptic. Luckily, not all of Hyrule has been conquered and distorted by malice yet, but it's only a matter of time before it is.
Again, Act 2 opens up with your objective very clear. Reach Hyrule Castle to defeat Ganondorf. Now, from this point on, if you're skilled enough, you can head straight for the castle and challenge Ganondorf right away. You might not find the best ending waiting for you, but it is an option. Actually, this can also be done from the very beginning of the game if you're resourceful enough by finessing your way to the surface and up to the castle, flying using the spectral arm and rune abilities you have. Like Breath of the Wild, the sequel offers a wide variety of freedom in how you explore the world, especially once reaching the surface. Your new Loftwing friend opens up travel in the world of Hyrule, unlike ever before, and allows you to visit floating islands of the kingdom as well. As the world of Hyrule is mostly familiar to many returning players, this helps keep the realm exciting and new, being able to experience it from a new viewpoint, as well as allows for a greater sense of control over the terrain than ever felt in Breath of the Wild. In turn, though, to keep that raw exploration alive in the game, your Loftwing cannot be flown freely underground. At this point, the game directs you to visit Hyrule's 5 main settlements, specifically Kakariko Village to continue the main story and start to learn more about the situation above the surface. But you are also free to go anywhere you like. The 5 settlements are under attack by Ganondorf's forces, who have returned stronger than ever, fueled by the continuing spread of malice across the surface of Hyrule. By visiting each settlement, reconnecting with the champion descendants, and fighting off Ganondorf's forces in varying missions for each quest, you will be greatly rewarded. Completing each quest will reward you with a heart container or stamina vessel, which works exactly as it did in Breath of the Wild, with the majority of them still being gained by completing the different shrine-like puzzle rooms found around the world. But as well as that, doing each settlement questline will grant you access to the champion's abilities again, after starting this game without them, and with Kakariko Village in particular, giving the player guidance on the next dungeon objectives and the aforementioned settlement quests.
The next 3 dungeons all revolve around procuring the proper tools needed to fell Ganondorf. This includes unlocking Zelda's ceiling power barred by Ganondorf at the beginning of the game, regaining the Master Sword taken by Ganondorf, and mastering the use of the Spectral Hand's ability to control one's life force, as seen by how it sealed Ganondorf away. Again, these dungeons can be tackled in any order, with Zelda's quest taking us deeper inside the inaccessible areas of the now floating Forgotten Temple, Link's quest leading us deep inside the also Skyward Akala Citadel, where Ganondorf hid the Master Sword, and finally the Spectral Hand quest, leading us back underground to a lost temple and experimental lab where the Zonai studied life force magic long ago in preparation to seal Ganondorf. These dungeons each have unique layouts and visual designs, the Forgotten Temple being a pristine golden temple hidden in the rubble of its ruined exterior, then Akala Citadel, an abandoned fortress protecting some interesting secret locations, and finally the Lost Life Force Temple, an eerie and creepy dungeon with a traditional Zonai exterior but also hiding unusual experimental labs inside, with failed test subject Redeads and Gibdos. The boss of this temple also happens to be a returning villain, a zombified Master Koga, sitting at the bottom of the Yiga Clan pit, surrounded by corpses. Aside from these dungeons that play a part in the game's main quest, there are 2 totally optional dungeons hidden on the surface of Hyrule. Exploration is at the soul of Breath of the Wild, and for years I've dreamed of the day players can organically discover an entire optional sprawling labyrinth as a reward for exploring. So, here it is.
But after visiting each settlement to help fend off Ganondorf's attacks, completing the 3 main quest dungeons recovering Zelda's power, the Master Sword, and the Spectral Hand's ability to control life force, you're now ready to take on Ganondorf. Hyrule Castle serves as the sequel's final dungeon, mirroring the original. The difference here being it is much tougher to navigate due to an increase of roadblocks, puzzles, and enemies, making it more of a linear and traditional dungeon. When reaching the top of the castle, at the Sanctum, Ganondorf is waiting for you. A final battle against his human form ensues, and he is defeated by draining his life force with the Spectral Hand, and Zelda obliterating it with the power of the Triforce.
Following Ganondorf's defeat, the malice covering Hyrule disappears, this time for good. The way to the underground kingdom of Primordium is open, and the Zonai are finally free to return to the surface, again. With this, Hyrule is finally ready to recover after the tragedy of the Great Calamity and the return of Ganondorf. The kingdom begins to rebuild itself, now stronger than ever. Creating something out of thin air is a really hard task, especially in video games. Unlike in other creative mediums like films or books, games are interactive and multi-layered. The best games aren't focused on trying to tell a good story or entertaining the player. They're focused on doing both while also building an experience that they can't guide. Only the player can. Gameplay, story, mechanics, world design, collectibles, player guidance, player freedom, gauging workload. As players, we might not notice all the work that goes into the balancing act that is creating worlds like this, but when you take a step back and look at games from a designer's perspective, it really is quite remarkable. No one can ever tell me that games are not a form of art. The amount of creative energy, time, and thought that went into just creating this simple concept video proves that much to me. What'd you think? Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, this was a long labor of love for all of us, and put a lot of work into it. I hope it came out okay, and you guys saw some ideas in here that you really liked. Again, I want to give a huge thank you to Ganondoodles and NintendoBlackCrisis for joining me for this video. Ganondoodles just brought all these ideas to life with their amazing artwork, and I could not have asked for any more from these designs. I love them. I hope you guys did too. And NBC, it was a pleasure to work with him as well. He was one of the original Zelda theorists that inspired me to try out Zelda theories, and I mean, look at where we are now. So if you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It helps us grow and continue to make content like this, and it's just pretty cool. Also, make sure you keep an eye out for the second part of this collab coming to NBC's channel sometime soon. As always, guys, if you want to, you can follow me on Twitter at XenoGamerYT, you can join the Discord server community with the link in the description below, or you can join us every Friday night for streams on Twitch. Thanks again for watching, guys. Stay tuned to the channel for more videos soon, and I will see you later. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.